1920s and the Great Depression. By Ise Huffman. Monkey Trial, 1920. The monkey trial was a famous case where a science teacher had broke the Butler Law. The Butler Law was restriction of teaching evolution in schools. Darrow had represented Scopes and Bryan represented the city. Monkey Trial, 1920 continued. Darrow had lost the case, but he had gotten Bryan to admit that the Bible does not prove evolution wrong. Books, 1920. Books were popular in the 1920s. One of the most famous books written that is still today is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Many used them as pastime when they weren't busy doing something else. Movies/music, 1920s. Movies and music had also been very popular during the 1920s because the Roaring Twenties gave most people more leisure time or free time. Jazz had been very big for music in the 1920s. Movies/music, 1920s continued. Most films had used black paint on whites to show as African American character because blacks were not allowed in movies. Famous quote, "Brother, can you spare me a dime?" had been a famous quote during the Great Depression because of the poverty throughout the world. The quote started after the stock market crashed on October 29, 1929 or Black Tuesday, a very important date. The Great Depression. People rushed to banks to get their money, but if they had been too late they didn't get it because banks ran out of money, otherwise known as bank runs. Unemployment had rose from 1.5 million to 12 million Americans when the Great Depression had hit. The Great Depression PT2. The Dust Bowl had not helped, this issue being a bad sandstorm that ruined cattle or crops and caused many to move from Oklahoma to California. Most had blamed Hoover for not doing anything to help the situation. The Great Depression PT3. Americans had begun to have hope once Franklin D. Roosevelt had become president. Fun facts: Great Depression. President FDR had promised the people a New Deal for America. This had become his new slogan for his campaign. Americans had more hope with FDR because they were happy something was finally going to be done. Fun facts: Great Depression. Hoover made the mistake in 1920 by telling Americans the worst was over. 1930s is one of the most studied periods in history. Fun facts: 1920s. Prohibition era had started. Flappers, or otherwise known as rebellious girls. 1920s was known as the golden age of Hollywood. Fun facts: 1920s. There had been an economic boom in 1920s. Al Capone ran the long bull market in the 1920s, and he was also known as the worst gangster. Sources: American History Textbook Chapters, 48-49. http://www.ushistory.org/us/48.asb http://www.ushistory.org/us/49.asb